give you a summary of what happened in the January 6th committee's second hearing. The theme for this hearing was very straightforward. Trump lost, there was no fraud, and he not only knew it, but he also used it to make millions of dollars from his base. I'm going to talk about this hearing's key witnesses and the scam used by the Trump campaign to raise money for a fund that didn't even exist. If you're new here, hola! I am Silvia, and I'm here to help you feel less overwhelmed by the news, eager to create change, and more informed about US politics. Subscribe to my channel and click on the bell so you get notified whenever I upload a new video breaking down what's been happening at the other January 6th hearings or other important topics related to the politics in our country. June 13th, 2022. This is the day when the January 6th committee held its second hearing, focused on showing us that Trump lost and he knew it. Committee Chair Benny Thompson started by saying that what Trump and his minions did was try to steal from Americans our right to vote for the leaders that we want. And Republican Vice Chair Liz Cheney said this.
The Trump campaign legal team knew there was no legitimate argument, fraud, irregularities, or anything to overturn the election. And yet President Trump went ahead with his plans for January 6th anyway. Mr. Chairman, hundreds of our countrymen have faced criminal charges. Many are serving criminal sentences because they believed what Donald Trump said about the election, and they acted on it. They came to Washington, D.C. at his request. They marched on the Capitol at his request. And hundreds of them besieged and invaded the building at the heart of our constitutional republic. As one conservative editorial board put it recently, quote, Mr. Trump betrayed his supporters by conning them on January 6th, and he is still doing it.
The committee relied entirely on the testimony from senior Republican officials and members of Trump's own inner circle to tell the story of how Trump tried to overthrow our government. This is important to note because some people have tried to say that this committee is engaging in a partisan witch hunt. If you sit down and watch, these hearings are actually a wonderful display of cooperation between lawmakers from both sides, Democrats and Republicans, working together to find the truth about what happened on January 6, 2021. Nobody's yelling, cutting others off, or trying to produce sound bites for right-wing media, as we saw during the hearings for Trump's first impeachment. Most of the witnesses that have testified in person or appear in the video clips testifying before the committee are Republicans. Representative Zoe Lofgren directed the second hearing. The witnesses in the first half of the hearing were former Fox News political editor Chris Stirewalt and Trump's former campaign manager Bill Stepien. Stepien couldn't testify in person because his wife went into labor that morning. So the committee used video clips from when Stepien testified in closed-door hearings. Chris Stirewalt, the Fox News elections expert, explained what happened in the 2020 election, the red mirage and the blue wave. Everyone expected in-person voting to favor Republicans and mail-in voting to favor Democrats. The in-person votes tend to be counted first, which makes it look like Trump was winning. That's what people refer to as the red mirage. But then once the states count the mail-in ballots, the results would swing towards Biden. That's the blue wave. Stirewalt was fired from Fox News because of the conservative backlash after his network was the first to say that Biden won Arizona in the 2020 election. Trump knew he lost the election. We saw clips of Bill Stepien, Trump's former campaign manager, who testified that he told Trump not to claim victory the night of the election because the numbers were still too early to call. Trump ignored him and instead listened to Rudy Giuliani, who Stepien said was actually drunk. Giuliani told Trump to declare victory, which is exactly what he did. He claimed that he had won and that election officials needed to stop counting the remaining ballots because he insisted those were fraudulent. Again, Stepien testified that there was no evidence to make those claims.
The testimony this morning paints a picture of a president who is hearing from all of his top advisors, not all, many of his top advisors, the normal team, as Bill Stepien called them, that his claims were outrageous. They were BS. They were not based in any fact. And yet he went out to his supporters and told them they were true, encouraged them, lit this match, encouraged people to believe these BS allegations. He asked them for money to help in his legal cases. He gave them a false sense of hope. And that culminated, as I think the committee will get to, in what we saw on January 6th. So let's take a step back from the process, from the inside baseball, who's on the committee and who isn't. We saw a portrait of a president today who is increasingly at odds with reality, and that's according to his own advisors, including people like Bill Barr.
Trump's most senior advisors told him over and over again that he had lost the election. They told him that all of the examples of fraud he kept citing were wild, bullshit, incorrect, and bad information. But Trump kept pushing those stories and insisting publicly that he had won. This big lie wasn't just about keeping Trump in office. The January 6th committee established that the Trump campaign sent millions of fundraising emails promising to fight to challenge the election results. They raised $250 million from small donations to something they called the Election Defense Fund. Here's the problem. That fund wasn't even real.
I'm Senior Investigative Counsel with the House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol. Between Election Day and January 6th, the Trump campaign sent millions of fundraising emails to Trump supporters, sometimes as many as 25 a day. The emails claimed the, quote, left-wing mob was undermining the election, implored supporters to, quote, step up to protect the integrity of the election, and encouraged them to, quote, fight back. But as the Select Committee has demonstrated, the Trump campaign knew these claims of voter fraud were false, yet they continued to barrage small-dollar donors with emails, encouraging them to donate to something called the Official Election Defense Fund. The Select Committee discovered no such fund existed.
I don't believe there is actually a fund called the Election Defense Fund.
Is it fair to say that the Election Defense Fund was another, I think we called it a marketing tactic?
Yes.
And tell us about these funds as marketing tactics.
Just a topic matter where money could potentially go to be, how money could potentially be used.
The claims that the election was stolen were so successful, President Trump and his allies raised $250 million, nearly $100 million in the first week after the election. On November 9th, 2020, President Trump created a separate entity called the Save America PAC. Most of the money raised went to this newly created PAC, not to election-related litigation. The Select Committee discovered that the Save America PAC made millions of dollars of contributions to pro-Trump organizations, including $1 million to Trump Chief of Staff Mark Meadows' charitable foundation, $1 million to the America First Policy Institute, a conservative organization which employs several former Trump administration officials, $204,857 to the Trump Hotel Collection, and over $5 million to Event Strategies, Inc., the company that ran President Trump's January 6th rally on the Ellipse.
All of us here today do not want to see our election victory stolen by emboldened radical left Democrats, which is what they're doing.
The evidence developed by the Select Committee highlights how the Trump campaign aggressively pushed false election claims to fundraise, telling supporters it would be used to fight voter fraud that did not exist. The emails continued through January 6th, even as President Trump spoke on the Ellipse. 30 minutes after the last fundraising email was sent, the Capitol was breached.
In the second half of the hearing, we heard from 3 additional witnesses. Ben Ginsberg is a conservative elections lawyer who was involved in the 2000 recount of the presidential election where Al Gore won the popular vote but lost to George W. Bush. Representative Zoe Lofgren asked Ginsberg about the 62 lawsuits the Trump campaign filed claiming election fraud, asking if the campaign effectively made its case. Ginsberg said that the Trump campaign failed to make their case and there was no credible evidence of fraud from either the Trump campaign or Trump supporters. Another witness who testified before the January 6th committees in the second hearing was Al Schmidt. He's a former commissioner for the city of Philadelphia. Schmidt was the only Republican member of Philadelphia's City Commission, which oversees the city's elections. The city was one of the targets of Trump's claims of voter fraud. He claimed that 8,000 dead voters cast ballots in Philadelphia, but not even 8 dead people voted in Philadelphia. Listen to this.
So President Trump made numerous claims regarding fraudulent voting practices in Philadelphia, including the claim that dead people were voting. In fact, Mr. Giuliani told Pennsylvania state legislators that 8,000 dead people voted in Pennsylvania. You investigated those claims of voter fraud. Can you tell us what you found?
Not only was there not evidence of 8,000 dead voters voting in Pennsylvania, there wasn't evidence of 8. We took seriously every case that was referred to us, no matter how fantastical, no matter how absurd, and took every one of those seriously, including these.
And the third witness was BJ Pak, the former U.S. Attorney General for the Northern District of Georgia. Pak stepped down from his role after Trump called Georgia's Secretary of State and tried to pressure him into saying there had been election fraud, something which is absolutely false. Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, and his Chief Operating Officer, Gabriel Sterling, testified in the fourth hearing, so I will go into more details in that summary. If you didn't catch my summary of the first hearing, go ahead and watch this video. Now, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you can catch all the summaries from the committee's hearings and other videos breaking down what's going on in U.S. politics. See you again soon. Un abrazo.